It was supposed to be a perfect trip, the kind of weekend that reminded you why you married the woman you did, and why you still called some people your closest friends after more than a decade. Just three couples, six tents, open sky, a pine-drenched valley 3 hours outside the city, and enough beer to forget what Monday looked like. I hadn't felt that free in months. Emily had packed all our gear the night before: sleeping bags, foldable chairs, our cast iron skillet that she insisted on using even when it made the backpacking weight a nightmare. That was just like her. She brought art into every corner of our lives, even our camping food. She looked radiant that morning we left, hair tied in a low ponytail, her old college hoodie pulled over one shoulder. I remember how she hummed to herself as we drove, tapping a finger against the window in rhythm to some Fleetwood Mac song on the playlist. It's always the small things I remember now, the tiny details that would later feel cruel in their innocence. Nathan and his wife, Rachel, rode in the car ahead of us. I could see his hand outside the window, holding a GoPro stick like he was documenting the whole damn trip for YouTube. He always had to be the center of something, whether it was attention, a business deal, or the joke nobody else had the nerve to tell. We'd known each other since college. He was my roommate sophomore year. Back then, he was the reckless one, and I was the quiet code monkey, with insomnia and anxiety-induced insomnia. Somehow we made it work. I introduced him to his now wife, Rachel, at a Halloween party where he came dressed as a banana and she as Carmen Sandiego. I never thought I'd have to watch that man tear my life apart from the inside. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The trip started the way these trips always did, with banter, badly staked tents, and beers cracked open before noon. There was Sarah and Joe, the other couple in the group, who brought their French bulldog, despite all of us agreeing no pets this time. Emily didn't mind. She loved dogs, even if they barked through the night and licked your face when you weren't looking. We cooked over the fire, played stupid card games, and took long hikes up to the ridgeline where phone signals died, and silence stretched on like a second skin. The kind of silence that made you believe everything was exactly the way it was supposed to be. Emily laughed more on that trip than I'd seen her do in a while. And that's what still guts me. Because she wasn't laughing at my jokes. It was always Nathan's voice that pulled the bigger reaction from her. He had that charm, that brash charisma that walked a line between hilarious and inappropriate. The kind of man who could insult you to your face and make you feel like he'd done you a favor. And Emily, God, she laughed. Sometimes she'd tilt her head back a little when he spoke, her mouth parting just enough, eyes squinting the way they did when she was genuinely amused. It wasn't flirtatious, not overtly, but there was something intimate in the way she responded to him. A frequency only the two of them seemed to understand. I told myself it was nothing. Nathan had always been that way, and Emily had always been friendly. She was the one who remembered birthdays, who brought wine to every dinner party, who hugged our friends a beat too long. That's just how she was. I'd always admired how easily she connected with people, but sometimes, just sometimes, I wondered if the connection was too easy. Like that night, 3 days into the trip, when Nathan made some joke about skinny dipping in the lake. Everyone laughed, but it was Emily who added, "Only if the moon's out." And the way she said it, low, teasing, made Rachel glance at her, then at me. I smiled, played it off. But the smile hurt a little more than it should have. I brushed it away. I always did. On the last morning, the sun came out earlier than expected. The air was crisp, our gear soaked in dew. We all moved in slow, sleepy silence, trying to pack while preserving the illusion that none of us had to go back to real life. I was at the car, organizing the trunk when I looked up. Emily was 10 feet away at our campsite, bending over to pick up her water bottle. Nathan was behind her, close, too close, and that's when I saw it. His hand reached out, casual at first, then it landed on her hip. No, not just her hip. He squeezed, fingers pressing in with a familiarity that chilled me. Then the hand slid, down, unmistakably, onto her backside. My chest tightened. My breath caught somewhere between shock and rage. And then Emily turned. She pushed his hand away. But she smiled. Not in shock, not in anger, not in discomfort. She smiled like it was funny, like this was something normal between them, a secret joke I'd never heard. And that was the moment something inside me cracked. It only lasted 2 seconds, maybe less, but it was enough to tilt my world. When I looked around, no one else seemed to have noticed. Sarah was stuffing things into her car. Joe was arguing with Rachel over GPS directions. The forest stood silent, and I stood there, watching my best friend touch my wife like she was his, and my wife let him. We didn't talk much on the drive home. Emily played music like she always did. Something soft and airy, Phoebe Bridgers or some indie band I'd forgotten the name of. I remember her humming along, tapping the steering wheel, smiling at nothing. And me? I just stared out the window, pretending I wasn't bleeding inside. I didn't say a word about what I saw. I didn't ask her why Nathan touched her like that. I didn't ask her why she smiled, because I didn't want to hear the answer. Not yet. Instead, I let my silence fill the car like fog, thick, suffocating. "You okay?" she asked sometime after we passed the halfway mark back into the city. "Just tired," I lied. "Work's been on my mind." She nodded slowly. "You've seemed quiet all morning." Still, I said nothing. I didn't know what hurt more, what Nathan did, or the way Emily let him. That night I lay next to her in bed, eyes wide open, pretending to sleep. Her breathing was steady, her body curled away from me, like it always did after trips. She'd said once she needed to decompress after being around people too long. I used to find that endearing, independent, balanced. Now I wondered if she was just hiding. Was that her default? Curl away, avoid, reset? At 2 a.m., I got out of bed and went to my office. I sat at my desk for hours, staring at nothing. My coffee went cold twice. I kept seeing it, his hand on her not flinching, her smiling. My stomach churned. The next few days were mechanical. Routine became a shield. I used to stay sane. Wake up, work, eat, pretend. But every moment I wasn't busy, my mind spiraled. What else had I missed? Had it only been a moment, a mistake, or had it been a symptom? I started watching them more closely, Emily and Nathan. And it wasn't hard. He came by our place often. Too often, now that I thought about it. They shared inside jokes I didn't get. He complimented her too often. She touched his shoulder in conversations, leaned in too close. And then there were the texts. I wasn't proud of what I did next, but I had to know. I remembered her iPad, the old one she barely used, synced to her iPhone years ago when she got it. She'd never disabled the connection. It was in the cabinet drawer, buried under old paperwork and expired warranties. I charged it in my office, heart pounding like I was doing something criminal. In a way I was, betraying trust to investigate betrayal. But I didn't care anymore. When the screen lit up, I saw the notifications. Telegram. My hands trembled as I opened the app, and there it was, a thread of messages from Nate. That emoji hit me like a slap. I scrolled back. Hundreds of messages. Some deleted, some still there, flirting, jokes, photos. A picture of her legs in leggings captioned, "Guess who's not wearing panties to yoga today?" A reply from him, "You're evil, and I'm in a meeting and now I'm hard." My lungs constricted. I should have stopped reading, but I didn't. There were messages about their secret spot where they met sometimes. A coffee place 2 blocks from his office. There were plans to go out of town for a work thing. The same weekend, Emily told me she'd be visiting her sister. And then, the knife. "I can't stop thinking about what we talked about last week," she wrote. Leaving him? Yeah, but I can't. Not yet. He's still grieving. His parents were everything to him. I can't rip away the only family he has left. I reread that line 20 times. She wasn't staying because she loved me. She was staying out of pity, because I was the broken thing she couldn't discard yet. I felt cold, like I was reading someone else's life, someone else's wife. That night I didn't sleep. again. But this time, I didn't sit in silence. I opened my laptop. I downloaded a keylogger. I installed it on her iPad. I told myself it was just to confirm what I already knew, to gather proof, to prepare for the confrontation I didn't know how to have. But in truth, I wanted to see how deep the rot went. The next day, she kissed me on the cheek before heading to work. She was wearing the same perfume she wore on our 3rd anniversary. It smelled like everything I used to trust. 3 days later, the keylogger delivered what I was afraid of. Explicit messages, plans to meet when I was at work, discussions about how hard it was to keep lying, how much they hated pretending, how they wanted to start fresh, just the two of them. There was a photo Emily sent him from our bedroom, our bed. She was wearing my shirt, captioned, "Can't stop thinking about last night. I still smell like you." I threw up in the bathroom. I didn't know what to do. Confronting her felt both inevitable and impossible. Nathan, how the hell could he do this? This man toasted us at our wedding, held my shoulder at my father's funeral, cried with me when my mom died of cancer, called me brother in every speech. And Emily, she held me at night when I couldn't sleep. She ran her fingers through my hair and said I was her piece. Was it all a lie, or did something break and I just missed it? The next twist came 3 days later. I was scrolling through the new logs when I saw a message. Emily to Nathan, "I don't think I can do it anymore." "What do you mean?" "He's been distant, cold. I think he knows something." "Then maybe it's time." "I still don't know. The guilt is real, but the love's real too. You know I've never felt like this with anyone else." I stopped breathing. So she loved him? Not just lust, not just mistakes. She was in love with him. David had never thought he'd sit across from Rachel, Nathan's wife, in a quiet cafe, sliding a folder of printed screenshots across the table like it was evidence in a murder trial. And maybe it was. A slow, deliberate murder of trust. She looked confused at first, then wary. "What is this?" she asked, her fingers brushing the edge of the folder. "I think you already know it's not good," David said quietly. Rachel opened it. By the 3rd page, her hand was shaking. By the 5th, she stopped reading and stared blankly at the coffee in front of her. "Jesus Christ," she whispered. "How long?" 8 months from what I can tell. Maybe longer. Rachel didn't cry. She just sat there, still, stone-like, as if some internal mechanism had shut off. Her voice, when she finally spoke again, was cold, precise. "They used me as an alibi. That weekend in Napa, when Nathan said he was going on a team-building retreat, he told me he was with his regional leads. She told you she was staying with her sister?" David nodded. "Hotel receipts, messages planning it. It's all in there." Silence stretched between them. Then Rachel said, "We don't tell them yet." David looked up. "We wait," she said firmly. "We get our ducks in a row. I want a lawyer. I want to know what I'm entitled to. I want him to have no idea what's coming." David exhaled, slowly. "That's what I was hoping you'd say." Emily was going out of town for work the following Friday. It was a familiar routine now. She packed lightly, kissed him on the cheek, left wearing activewear and perfume. She said she'd be staying at a hotel near her client's headquarters. She'd even forwarded a fake itinerary from a fabricated email address. David didn't say a word. He let her go. As soon as the door closed, he called the lawyer he'd been consulting secretly for the past week. By that afternoon, they drafted a financial protection strategy. David's inheritance, untouched by marital expenses, was secure under state law. Their shared condo, however, would need negotiation. David also began separating their bank accounts. Quietly, legally. He moved half of their joint funds to a newly opened personal account under advice from counsel and documented every transaction meticulously. That night, alone in the apartment, David sat at the edge of their bed and stared at the ceiling. He still hadn't cried. Emily came home Sunday night. She walked through the door like nothing had changed, smiling, hair slightly tousled. She smelled like someone else's cologne. "Hi, babe," she said, setting her bag down. God, I'm exhausted. That conference was a mess. One of the speakers passed out midway through her pitch and... Emily, David said, calm. Cold. She turned. We need to talk. She paused, blinked once, twice. Okay, what's going on? Sit down. She sat on the couch, legs crossed neatly like she always did when she sensed tension. Her eyes searched his face. I need you to be honest with me, David said. Of course, baby, she said, instantly on alert. What is this? Are you happy with me? Yes. Have I ever made you feel unloved? She frowned. David, what's this about? He leaned forward. Then why are you cheating on me with Nathan? Silence. Emily's face drained of color. She didn't move, didn't speak. Her lips parted as if to say something, but nothing came. David didn't stop. I've seen the messages, the photos. I've read everything. I know about the hotel this weekend. I know about the coffee shop. I know about the lie you told me about your sister. She covered her mouth with her hand. A single tiny sound escaped her. Not a sob, not yet, just a gasp. I know you've been thinking about leaving me, David continued. I know you told him you love him. I know you said you stayed because you pitied me. Tears welled in her eyes. She whispered. David, no, He raised a hand. Please, no lies. Not tonight. She broke. Emily collapsed into herself, curling like a child, sobbing into her hands. Her voice was raw, unfiltered, like something had ruptured inside her. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said. It just started. After your mom passed. You were gone, emotionally, and Nathan, he was just there. He made me laugh again. He made me feel alive. David didn't flinch. He had rehearsed this moment 100 times in his head. She continued, It wasn't supposed to be serious. At first, it was just talking. Then one night we kissed, and then... I don't even know when it crossed the line, but I swear I didn't plan it. I never meant to fall for him. But you did. She nodded, tears streaking down her cheeks. Yes. And what about me? Emily looked up at him, face streaked with guilt. I never stopped loving you. He almost laughed. Almost. She reached for his hand. I know I've destroyed everything. I know. But please, don't give up on us. We've been through too much. This was a mistake. No, Emily, he said, standing. It was a choice. One you made for 8 months straight. She broke again. I didn't know how to feel alive anymore. You were grieving. You were gone. Nathan made me feel like a person again. David stared at her. It wasn't rage he felt. It was something colder, heavier, something final. I want a divorce, he said. Emily's body went still. The silence that followed was suffocating. But I already have a lawyer. Papers will be filed this week. You'll receive them soon. You can sign them, or we can go to court. Either way, I'm done. He walked toward the bedroom door, then paused. Oh, and just so you know, this entire conversation was recorded. State law permits it. He didn't wait for her reply. He left her on the couch, sobbing into a silence she had created. David moved out 2 days after the confrontation. He packed quietly while Emily sat on the edge of the bed, crying into the sleeves of the hoodie she used to steal from him. She didn't fight. She didn't scream. She didn't throw things. She just asked over and over, Are you really going to leave me? And David, without malice, without triumph, answered the same each time. I already did. He moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. Nothing fancy. Just enough space for a mattress, a desk, and a quiet place to think, or try to. The silence was both a wound and a balm. Emily's messages came daily. Some were long, pleading confessions. Others were short and cold, lashing out. Then, 5 days after he moved out, she sent him a photo, a blurry sonogram, captioned, I found out yesterday, I'm 7 weeks pregnant. David stared at the image, then closed the message. He didn't reply, not yet. Instead, he powered on the iPad. She still hadn't realized he had it. In her Telegram thread with Nathan, There was no mention of the pregnancy. Nothing about a test, nothing about telling him, nothing about missed periods, nothing at all, until 2 nights later. He's not responding. Maybe he's shocked. I need him to talk to me. This baby changes everything. You're sure it's his? I feel like it is. It has to be. Even if it's not, he might come back. For the kid, for the money. David felt the bottom drop out of his stomach. It wasn't just the betrayal. It wasn't just the manipulation. It was the calculated cruelty, the transactional mindset, the idea that his dead parents' inheritance might be the only reason she wanted him back. He called his lawyer that night. I need a paternity test, he said, voice hoarse. And if she refuses, then I want to document that refusal for court. Meanwhile, Rachel filed for divorce. Her meeting with her lawyer had been swift, brutal, clean. She messaged David the same evening. He told me he was blinded by lust, that he thought he and Emily had a future. I told him the only future he had was with his own guilt, alone. You okay? David replied. I'm breathing. That's as far as I've gotten. They met for coffee again the following weekend. This time there were no printed messages, no secrets, just 2 people sitting in the aftershock. I keep thinking, Rachel said, stirring her tea, about how many nights I sat next to them, dinners, parties, trips, watching them laugh together and thinking it was harmless. David nodded. Same. You ever think you missed signs? Every day. They were quiet for a while. Then Rachel asked, Do you hate her? David thought for a long moment. No, he said, but I don't recognize her either. Emily, growing desperate, tried another approach. She sent a voice message. Her voice was trembling, measured, the kind she used when trying to defuse a tense situation. David, I know you don't believe me, and I don't blame you, but I swear to God, this baby is yours. Please, don't punish our child for my mistake. We can try again. We can fix this. Then a text, 5 minutes later, You're the only family I have left. David stared at that last line. She had said that to him once, after his parents died, and now she was using it like a knife. He turned off the phone. The paternity test never happened, because 1 week later, Emily messaged him again. I had a miscarriage. There's nothing to fight about anymore. David didn't respond. Whether it was true or a final manipulative card, he would never know, and didn't need to. He had already started the paperwork to finalize the divorce. Rachel and David didn't start dating. It wasn't that simple. They went on walks, talked late at night, shared music, memories, bad dreams. They didn't kiss, didn't hold hands, but there was comfort in the silence between them, an understanding only the betrayed could share. One evening, months later, as the final court dates approached, Rachel said something that stayed with David. Grief is funny. People think it comes from death, but it doesn't. Not always. David looked at her. Where else does it come from? From the people who promised they'd never be the ones to hurt you. That night, David walked home alone. He passed their old condo building, looked up. One light was on. A shadow moved past the curtain. But it wasn't his life anymore. It was a chapter closed, a scar forming. And for the first time in a year, he felt like he could breathe again. Some nights, David still dreams about the forest. The trees stretch high and dark. The fire crackles low and laughter echoes like it used to. Emily is there, smiling. Nathan is pouring wine. The others are playing cards or roasting marshmallows. It feels warm, safe, familiar. Then it shifts. He sees the moment, again, in perfect, paralyzing clarity. Emily bent down to pick something up. Nathan behind her. The hand, the touch, the smile. Always that smile. And every time David wakes up in silence, heart pounding in the dark. It was just a second, a blink, a moment so small it should have meant nothing, but that 1 second split his life into 2 halves, before and after. David has changed. He no longer believes that love is proof against betrayal. He no longer believes that time equals loyalty. 12 years with someone means nothing if their heart has already packed and left without telling you. He's learned how betrayal doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it walks in through the front door wearing your hoodie and carrying your favorite wine. Sometimes it sounds like someone you trust, laughing a little too easily at another man's joke. Sometimes it's in the silence, the lack of discomfort after a boundary has been crossed. He used to call that overthinking. Now he calls it what it is, instinct. The bitterest truth? He still loves her. Not the woman she became, but the woman she was. The girl who painted tiny flowers on his coffee mugs. The woman who sat next to him in silence when his parents died and didn't try to fill the void with words. He mourns her like he mourned them, as something lost, as something that used to be his. But he also knows now, a single touch can be the beginning of the end. One moment, one seemingly meaningless gesture, can unravel the illusion you thought was your life. He journals now. It helps. In one entry he wrote, "I wasn't destroyed by the affair. I was destroyed by the knowledge that I was the only one trying to protect what we had." In another, the scariest part wasn't losing her. It was realizing how easy it was for her to pretend she still loved me while loving someone else. And in the final one, the last page of the last journal, dated exactly 1 year after the camping trip. If you feel like something is wrong, it probably is. Trust that voice, that instinct, because it's the only warning you'll ever get before the Florian disappears. Your gut is not paranoia. It's your last defense, and it never lies.